Hello YouTube, my name's Sean Connors and welcome back to The Outsiders. Today we're going to focus on some handy tips when building an archer in Pathfinder RPG. Just seen Andrew of dawnforgedcast's video on this and thought it was brilliant and thought I'd do my own personal spin on it and give a few other pointers I think could be of use to the audience at large. So let's start with race. For the purposes of my video I'm going to eliminate some of the possible choices you could take. Not because none of these races can build great archers, of course they can. It's just that I want to focus on particular aspects that I think are going to be a little bit different than what Andrew's done. So the 5 races I feel have the best chance to build the best archers are, in no particular order, Halfling, Half-Orc, Human, Half-Elf and Elf. I'm going to eliminate the Halfling, the Half-Orc and the Human. Again, as I've said, not for any particular reason, just because I'm going in a particular direction here with this build. And that leaves me with Elf and Half-Elf. The reason I've chosen them is because I want to build an Arcane Archer, a very potent Arcane Archer, and one of the prerequisites is you have to be one of those races. I'm going to choose Elf for the purposes of my video, and I'm going to examine all the steps that I'm going to take to make this fully functioning Archer build, at least in the low levels. The rest you can do yourself over a period of time. So let's have a look at the Elf. Now, this in front of you here is the first few feats that you'll actually gain. You'll notice pretty quickly, although I've not gone into what levels I'm going to choose, at first level character will get a feat, and so will a fighter. So I'm going to play a fighter at first level, and I'm going to take rapid shot and point blank shot. Andrew quite rightly points out in his video how important precise shot is. Now you won't get that in my build until 3rd level, so that's something to bear in mind. So positioning is going to be everything in those early levels. So my advice would be to take your bow weapon, you begin your specialism route with it, and you'll probably need a large weapon to back yourself up with, something like a great sword, a great axe, or even an elven curved blade. And you'll notice at 2nd level I've suddenly got Scribe Scroll. That is because at 2nd level with this build I'll actually take 1 level in Wizard. Now the rest of the time this build is going to focus on sticking to Fighter until you reach such a point that you can switch across to Arcane Archer. Now the Wizard level is actually quite important because at that level it allows you to do a couple of quite clever things. The first thing is you take at least a couple of spells that are going to benefit your archery or the big weapon that you're going to have to hand. And the 2 that come to mind are True Strike, for obvious reasons, and Enlarge, which can help you in the short term with the large weapon that you're going to have to use while you're supplementing your bow skill till it reaches such a point that you don't need to use it anymore. Now once you go to 3rd level and switch back to fighter, you'll notice you then get your precise shot, so your big weapon is no longer as important. And I've added on here Arcane Strike because now that you're a wizard you can do a pretty neat trick. So what is Arcane Strike? Well, it's one of those little feats that often gets overlooked. It's a swift action. You can imbue your weapons with a fraction of your power. For 1 round, your weapons deal +1 damage and are treated as magic for the purpose of overcoming damage reduction. That's fantastic. And for every 5 caster levels you possess, this bonus increases by +1. That's very nice indeed, as you'll go on to see later on in this build. The other thing I would do when taking a level in Wizard is become a specialist. There's no harm. Take Transmutation School and you can do a very neat little trick. You get a +1 enhancement bonus to 1 physical characteristic, either Strength, Dexterity, Constitution. Naturally, choose Dexterity. And at 4th level, don't forget that your stats will increase by 1 point further. So now your Dexterity, likely to be a 20 at the start of the game, will suddenly have shot up to 22 by that point. That's significant because you're now getting an extra bonus to hit, which you can build on later. So if you like, you're 4 levels ahead of the curve. Very important. Let's take a look at some of the stats around this character. Above you will see a list of information about the character, and this is only assuming a few things. Firstly, that you started with a 20 dex. Also, that you're likely to have gained at least a 16 strength and built off from there. Now, you can start the game doing 1d8 +1 because I've assumed that you don't actually have a strength bow or anything like that to begin the game with, although you have the prerequisite strength. And I've only included the strength allocation at 2nd level when it then improves. Now I've put there the wizard doing 2d6 +4 only because he could be enlarged. There is a negative to enlarging and using a bow. You lose 1 point effectively to hit because of your dex decreases by 2, and because there is actually a modification to using missile weapons as well, so you're losing 2 points. But it could be a price worth paying. But you'll notice as we skip forward to 4th level how ramped up the character gets. You'll be 3 levels of fighter, which gives you +3 to hit, +1 that should be point blank shot, dexterity +6 because of what we've already discussed, a masterwork strength bow,
at least +1. I mean, it's likely to be more, isn't it, to be fair? And you're dealing with +11 for one shot or +9/+9 under rapid shot. You're also doing 1d8 +5 damage times 2 on a critical, or 2d6 +5. Very, very powerful indeed, even at only 4th level. And you'll notice how quickly it actually ramps up. 5th level build, suddenly you're up to +15 to hit, +13 for your rapid shot, because you're likely to have a magic bow by 5th level, doing now 1d8 +7 damage because of the feats you've actually acquired, or 2d6 +7. The damage here is easily to account for because you've got that should be point blank +1, strength +3, arcane strike +1, and weapons specialization +2.
Let's have a look at the character at around about 7th level now, just on the verge of becoming an arcane archer. You can set up a couple of neat little tricks. You can have you could cast True Strike up and not fire any attacks. Then on the next round, you can apply Deadly Aim to all your shots, which will be at -2 to hit, but you get a +4 bonus to damage that you'll deal out. Let's take a look at that in a little bit more detail, break it down further. This means now that you've got many shot, your first arrow is actually counted as 2 arrows fired. And so the sort of damage, the potential that you've actually got, because your bonus is to hit a +18 now, or 16 +16, it's 2d8 +24 for that many-shotted arrow. Given the fact you've got True Strike up, unless you roll a 1, you're going to hit. Now, if we also assume that you're hasted, let's look at the details. That's 2d8 +24 for the first attack under many shot, at +14 to hit. And that's not even including the True Strike, so you're looking at 32. All your other attacks except your final one are 1d8 +12 damage, and your final attack is at +9, but still 1d8 +12 damage. If you average out the damage for that one round under a hasted attack, you're looking at about an average of 98 points of damage, level 7. Not a bad haul for an archer build going into middle levels. I think I need to add a quick caveat here. I'm only using the Pathfinder core book for the purposes of this build. Obviously, there are other books out there. If your GM allows them, you can probably take pieces of my advice out and add bits in. That's perfectly okay. But I think you'll agree, if you can do it in the core book, you can certainly do it with other books if the GM is going to allow them. The build can only get stronger, shall we say. But I already think it's pretty awesome. The whole point of the build has been taking it towards level 8, where you then will become an arcane archer. You'll have all the prerequisites and you can easily get in. It's once the Arcane Archer reaches 2nd level that things start getting interesting. I need to also point out there are actually 7 levels within the 10 level build that is the Arcane Archer, where your existing class level, i.e. your wizard, will increase his capability as a spellcaster as well, will increase just by being an Arcane Archer. But the real reason for getting into the Arcane Archer build is so that once you reach 2nd level, you can imbue arrows. And the beautiful thing about Imbue Arrow, as I shall read it verbatim for you, is at 2nd level the Arcane Archer gains the ability to place an area spell upon an arrow. When the arrow is fired, the spell's area is centred where the arrow lands, even if the spell could normally be centred only on the caster. This ability allows the archer to use the bow's range rather than the spell's range. A spell cast in this way uses its standard action time, and the Arcane Archer can fire the arrow as part of the casting. So effectively, although you can only fire one arrow at an enemy, you can put a spell on it. And that's absolutely amazing because you can set up some fantastic 1-2 punches. So hopefully what I've done for you is shown you alternative view to archer builds using the Pathfinder core book. Of course, check out Andrew dawnforgedcast's wonderful video on this very subject for other tips and advice. Anyway, I've been Sean Connors. This has been The Outsiders. Take care of yourselves and happy gaming. Bye-bye.